the role that Israel plays in influencing American foreign policy. There's nothing wrong with Israel trying to influence American foreign policy. Let me make that clear. The British seek to influence our foreign policy. The French seek to influence our foreign policy. The Saudis seek to influence our foreign policy. The difference is when they do this and they bring American citizens into play, these Americans, once they take the money of a foreign government and they advocate on behalf of that foreign government, they register themselves as an agent of that government so we know where they're coming from. That's all I ask the Israelis to do. Let us know where you're coming from, because stop confusing the American public that Israel's interests are necessarily America's interests. I have to tell you right now, Israel has a viable, valid concern about Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. If I were an Israeli, I'd be extremely concerned about Hezbollah, and I would want to do everything possible to nullify that organization. As an American, I will tell you, Hezbollah does not threaten the national security of the United States of America one iota. So we should not be talking about using American military forces to deal with the Hezbollah issue. That is an Israeli problem, and yet you'll see the New York Times, the Washington Post, and other media outlets confusing the issue. They want us to believe that Hezbollah is an American problem. It isn't, ladies and gentlemen. Hezbollah was created 3 years after Israel invaded Lebanon, not 3 years after the United States invaded Lebanon, and Hezbollah's sole purpose was to liberate southern Lebanon from Israeli occupation. I'm not here to condone or sing high praises and virtue for Hezbollah, but I'm here to tell you right now, Hezbollah is not a terrorist organization that threatens the security of the United States of America.
So in your book, speaking of Israel, it's sort of interesting reading through it. Let's see. Essentially, you describe Israel as viewing Iran, the notion of an Iranian nuclear weapon, as an existential threat. You describe how Israel collects intelligence, we could also call it spies, on the International Atomic Energy Agency. This is all sort of revelatory stuff in a way. Not the first part, but certainly this, that Israel has penetrated and worked very closely with people inside the IAEA, has apartments, safe houses in Vienna where it does business, and basically operates politically inside the IAEA. Three, you describe in great detail, again, I think in more detail than has ever been made public, how much the Israelis have worked very closely with the MEK, the Kolk, this terrorist group that's now pretty much in play again. We'll get to that in a minute. In not only in terms of supporting it and urging us, the United States, to support it, but also much of the intelligence, most of the main things that were learned in this administration about the Iranian nuclear weapons programs were announced by MEK officials over the years, particularly in August of 2002. There was a major announcement of the underground facilities, a place that many of you now know were Natanz. And the extent of digging inside Iran was made public by the MEK. And you write in your book repeatedly how Israel was the source for that intelligence, and basically was using the MEK to proselytize and propagandize in America. You also describe, as we said earlier, extremely active operations by Israel inside Iran, collecting, running agents, etc., collecting intelligence. So, tell us about you in Israel. Are you anti-Semitic? Are you anti-Israel? I know you served there. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, I'm not anti-Semitic, and I'm definitely not anti-Israeli.
And you're certainly not a self-hating Jew. Let's make that clear.
No, I could be a self-hating goyim, but unless there's something in my past we haven't uncovered yet.
Like some senators, right?
But it's irrelevant. The bottom line is I consider myself to be a friend of the state of Israel. I consider myself to be a true friend of the Israeli people. But I define friendship as someone who takes care of a friend, who just doesn't use or exploit a friend. And you know, there's that old adage, friends don't let friends drive drunk. We used to use that in the anti-drug campaign, the anti-alcohol campaign. And that's how I view my friendship with Israel. And when I see a friend preparing to drive drunk or doing something that's going to be harmful to them or to me, I'll say no. I'll say stop. So my criticism of Israel is not from some, Jewish hating, anti-Semitic, foundation of myself. No, as I point out to people, I spent a couple weeks in 1991 working with people to stop Iraqi ballistic missiles from landing on Israeli soil. A lot of good Americans lost their lives in that effort. And, we took it serious. I spent 4 years in Israel working with the Israeli government on the issue of Iraq. I was very close with Israeli intelligence, very close with the Israeli government, and I have a lot of sympathies for them. I know how they work. I know who the players are. And I will say this, if I were Israeli, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing. All right? They have a legitimate concern here. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a small little country. And if a nuclear device goes off inside that small little country, Israel ceased to exist as a viable nation state. They can't afford any room for error. There is no margin of error here. That's why Israel's taken the position that not only will they not tolerate an Iranian nuclear weapons program, they will not tolerate nuclear technology that is usable in a nuclear weapons program. In this case, enrichment technology that Iran is permitted to have under Article 4 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel says, no, if Iran can enrich to levels that are usable in a nuclear reactor, that same technology can be used to enrich to levels usable in a nuclear device. Therefore, the Israeli position is not one spinning rotor, meaning not one centrifuge allowed to operate inside Iran. That's a zero tolerance policy. Now, Iran's a big country. They carried out a covert program. Let's mention this too. When the MEK gave the briefing in August of 2002, using what many people have said is Israeli information, guess what? They were right. Let's not forget that. They didn't come out and spew garbage. This was not Ahmed Chalabi making stuff up. This is the MEK representative saying there is a facility in Natanz involved in the enrichment of uranium that has been kept secret from the world. And they were right. So let's give a little tip of the hat to the Israeli intelligence community for getting it right. But there's a difference between getting the intelligence right and getting the policy right. And I will tell you right now that the Israelis have the policy wrong because they have created a system of analysis that deviates from the lessons learned from the Yom Kippur War. At the end of the Yom Kippur War, they basically said there will be no more conceptia, meaning we're going to have a concept of what the enemy thinks. We're going to conceive what the enemy thinks, project what the enemy thinks. And they got it wrong. They projected that the Egyptians would never attack on the dates that people talked about. Next thing you know, you got the 3rd Egyptian army rolling across the Sinai, and the Israelis got serious problems. They said it will be faked, fact-based analysis from now on. And we will double check and we will triple check. One of the more interesting Israelis I met was the Doubting Thomas.